Welcome to the Dusty Jobs podcast from Imperial Systems. Industry knowledge to make your job easier and safer.
Hello, and welcome to another episode of the Dusty Jobs podcast. We're still here at Powderball. Today we got Eric Peterson.
Yes. From Fagus-GreCon?
Fagus-GreCon. I just call you guys GreCon.
Yeah, it's much easier to say.
GreCon.
It's much easier. That's what we tell people to say too.
But Fagus-GreCon, and you guys, we work with you on a lot of times with protection devices.
Correct.
That's really it. And you've been with the company now for
6 years.
6 years, but you have been in this industry for a while, right?
Yeah, I've been in the wood industry for about 15 years.
Yeah.
I've been with Huber Engineers Woods for a while, and also on powder side of things.
Yeah.
I've been with General Mills, Pillsbury as well, so have a lot of experience in the industry, probably about 20 years now.
Now, I know for us, we use a lot of your product on the wood dust side.
Correct.
Because we build a product called a Spark Trap, which helps in metalworking, and we get a lot of calls for people that say, hey, I'm having fires in my wood dust bag house.
Correct.
And they want to put that Spark Trap on there, and we're like, you cannot do that.
Correct.
And that's a lot of times when we'll call a company like you guys.
Exactly.
And for everyone out there who's unfamiliar, maybe they are having this issue, they're having a continual events in their wood collector.
Yes.
What can you guys do to help with that?
Well, I think the one thing that we do is we try to, we detect sparks, embers, hot particles before they become a fire or an explosion.
Yeah.
That's always a good thing.
Yeah.
So, for a bag house or anything for a dust collector,
right,
we try to detect the sparks before they go in there so there is no combustion, no issues.
Yeah.
And we do it all seamlessly while the operation is running, never need to shut down. It notices a spark, sprays a little bit of mist.
Okay.
Kind of smothers that spark, extinguishes it, and everyone just goes around and doesn't know anything different. Outside of our console, we'll say, hey, you had a little spark there, just so you know, and more from the standpoint that they can keep the history to know, do they have a problem in their previous process? Is there an issue that they should take attention to, or is it just kind of a random incident?
So like if every time A happens, you're cutting this type of board, or I don't even know what it would be, or this grinding application, then the sparks happen, like you can kind of correlate that together. Is that what you're saying?
Absolutely. Or things like, things you might not think about initially. So sometimes with wood, there'll be metal pieces that'll get into the wood.
Yeah.
So if you get a run where there's a lot of metal pieces, you might get a lot more sparks as they're cutting or shaving or things like that. Or even in a dust collection system, you have a fan running.
Right.
Fans sometimes can turn, bend, adjust, or a piece gets in there and all of a sudden it starts creating sparks.
Right.
And if you have a big dust flow and you have those sparks flowing, it's only a matter of time when something bad will happen if you don't have something
like a material handling fan. Yeah, that sparks being directly introduced into the dust stream, which is like not good.
Let's just say that's what we try to prevent.
Right. So not only do you guys do that, but you guys have a ton of good information on your website too, right?
Correct.
So I know you were showing me this earlier. It's a little bit of a breakdown of what a spark is.
Yeah, I think sometimes people don't know, and I'll turn it around, and it's not perfect for everybody to see, but there's a lot of different types of sparks.
Yeah.
So you have your standard spark that's just what you would think like when you see metal, hitting flint or something like that. It's seeing the spark, or a fan hitting metal. You have kind of, burning particles that can happen in the process.
Okay.
And then there's a couple of odd ones that are kind of hot particles, or we call them like glowing or burning nests.
Yes.
And those are when materials kind of get stuck in your ductwork.
Okay.
And they kind of start warming up, but they kind of have that, I guess I'd say, that charcoal over the top.
Okay.
So it doesn't look hot, but all of a sudden when enough breeze starts blowing, sometimes that'll release into your process.
Like when you're blowing on a campfire.
Exactly.
And that it kind of just looks like charcoal, and then it gets red.
That is a perfect example of what it is.
Gotcha.
So there's a number of different types here, and we have different detectors that sense these things because they each have a different kind of temperature. So we have infrared detectors that notice it at different levels. So there is a lead sulfite detector that's good for one application, and there's a different detector that's good for another. Now, and I know when Todd was on a few years ago, we had talked about a new detector that we had, which is our DLD-19. It's a yellow. The easier way to say it, it's the yellow little detector.
The yellow little detector. Okay.
It's much easier to remember.
There you go.
But this detector actually sees on the whole spectrum of things. So
Right.
you
It
no
doesn't have
longer
to
need
be,
a
like,
specialty
totally
detector.
black.
Yeah, this
Yeah.
one, this will work in the dark, in the light, or even if you have dark to light.
Oh, that's
because
great.
it's kind of a, we'll just say it doesn't look like an intelligent detector, but
Yeah.
it's an intelligent detector that adjusts the sensitivity with kind of an AI kind of thinking.
Yeah.
That it'll see things differently as the light changes.
So there's a lot of abilities in that little yellow box.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So
So if someone's having incidences where they're probably an important thing for them to be able to tell you guys is what kind of sparks they're generating, right? I mean, that's like 101.
yeah,
Or,
I mean, a lot
is
of
there
times
an
they don't know what type of sparks. Most of them will say, "I don't think we have any sparks."
right.
And ours is just to look at their process. What are they doing? What are the potential points
Yeah.
where they could have issues? What the type of material is? What type of handling system they have? And then we'll go in and help kind of dissect where our detection and extinguishing and make the most sense for them.
So, so what you're saying is you don't have to have it all figured out before you call you guys. You
No.
guys will help whoever's having these issues figure out why they're having them.
Absolutely. Our system is extremely, I would say it's customized. Unless you have the same process, like if you had multiple facilities,
Right.
unless you have the same process, then it would be the same application. But everybody's got a little different turns, a little longer runs,
Right.
all these different things, and that changes how we might protect the area to make sure you don't have those nasty fires and explosions.
Yeah, because with your guys' system on the detect and then extinguish, there's definitely some minimum distances you need between where it sees the spark and have enough time to put it out, correct?
Correct. And that is affected by the type of material, the speed of the material.
Yeah.
All those things change how far it needs to be from detection to extinguishment. And I think one thing, when we say extinguishment, people are like, they think of fire hose.
Yeah.
And we're not doing fire hose. This is just, when we do an extinguishment, it's just a 3 to 4 second little mist. And because of the fan, the particles spray very, just in a nice cone. And when the fan is blowing, those particles just kind of spread across there, fill the ductwork, and they extinguish it all without really changing the moisture content of the material that you're running.
Yeah, it's not like not like the water parts for the big bucket
No.
dumps.
There's
It's not like
there's
that.
no
It's-
bucket dump. It's
yeah.
just like a misty spray.
Right. And
So-
and for you guys know how long to let that spray and how much to spray in there so that it does
Absolutely.
put the spark out but doesn't create
Doesn't-
a waterfall in your,
Just basically have leaky ductwork or
Yeah.
flooding the facility by any
Yeah.
stretch of point. We're just talking very slight little just moisture, just a pop of water, and again, just so it spreads evenly throughout the
Now-
area that it's covering.
Okay, let's say I'm there. I notice I have these issues. I'm inside my building. Does it have to be inside? Can it be outside? Can I tie it into my sprinkler system, or does it need to have its own direct? What are our limitations?
Yeah, there's a couple. One thing is you don't want to tie it into your regular sprinkler
Okay.
system. One is regular sprinkler system, when it's activated, it's going to let the fire department know what something's going on.
Yes.
We don't want to let the fire department know that the
Gotcha.
spark's going off because we're just going to put it out. There's no incident. They don't have
Right.
to worry about anything.
Okay.
And we want the water charged to the nozzle,
Okay.
so that way when we detect, it's instantly, putting the water in. So you don't want a system where, the water's like takes a few seconds to get to the
Yeah,
nozzle.
yeah.
These nozzles are charged and ready to go, so they can immediately go off. Now, you can do it both inside and outside.
Okay.
But you do obviously have issues with freeze thaw that could happen.
Oh, yeah, I can imagine.
That could be an issue. We have blankets that you can put over our extinguishment devices.
Okay.
And there's also things like heat tape, things that you can do to
Yeah.
kind of keep them safe. And we actually have a new extinguishment that also has a heat monitor in it.
Okay.
So it will sense the temperature, and when it gets to a certain temperature, it'll activate that heat chamber to warm up the device so it doesn't freeze at that time.
Nice. So so we have this hooked up. We have it so it's not freezing. how much pressure do I need to put a device like this in?
You know, again, it'll depend on how many nozzles you have.
Okay.
What are you trying to do? So it will vary a little bit.
Right.
But, you know, 60 psi is what we're kind of
Okay.
talking about.
Okay,
so.
but if I don't have that, you guys can help me with that?
Yeah, we have pumps that we can add to
Nice.
the system to make sure that's happening. So you're, you know, officially and, you know, okay from that. But most people, if they have a good water source,
Okay.
they're going to have
Like
pretty
city
close.
waters,
Yeah,
pretty-
most of the
okay.
time, if you have good city water, you know,
Yeah.
not everyone has that good high pressure.
Yeah.
But if you have good enough, you know, pressure, that can be done. But it's always easy to do to add a pump into the system.
Right.
That way, you don't have to worry about when the pressure drops for any reason. Like,
Yeah.
you know, it's 7:30 in the morning, everyone's taking their shower in the city, and
Yeah.
the pressure goes down. You know, this allows you to know that you have good, consistent pressure.
Yeah. Okay, so now you mentioned how many actual sprinkler, or not sprinkler heads, what do you guys call them?
We just call them simple extinguishment nozzles.
Extinguishable nozzles. Like, so is it the larger the ductwork gets, the more I need, or how do you determine, or is it based
Yeah.
on the spark, or
No,
both?
no, it really for a general ductwork, it's how big is that.
Okay.
You know, so the more there are, you know, the bigger the ductwork, we
Yeah,
might
that,
add more.
that makes sense.
In you know, most of the applications, it's two, one on either side.
Okay.
So that way you get good cone of distribution
Yeah.
on either side. Because if you just have one on the top, it's got a little blind spot right around that top.
Yeah.
We don't want any blind spots.
Right.
So we want good coverage from both sides.
Gotcha. Okay, so now you brought some show and tell too.
Yeah, I brought some show and tell. I've got
So-
more toys here
So
than
if
I probably
somebody's
need.
just listening, get on YouTube, check this out that way. But it's I mean, what are we looking at here? This looks like
Yeah, it's called our IEM. It's an intelligent extinguishing module.
Okay.
So I'm going to pick it up just for a second. So it's normally sitting like this.
Oh,
So these
okay,
are the
okay.
nozzles down here.
I gotcha.
But it's kind of awkward just to hold, and
Yeah.
you know, I don't have good bracing here, and
Yeah.
you know, I haven't been lifting as much as
yeah,
I should
yeah,
have
yeah.
lately.
You get, looks like you get a workout with it. It's
It-
definitely
it-
a sturdy built piece of equipment for sure.
But it's a new module that helps us with a number of different things. So it has some of the intelligent type of thinking that we had with this detector.
Okay.
So first, it will help on the maintenance side of things. So one of the most critical things in any spark extinguishment system is we detect sparks. We're fantastic at doing it.
Yeah.
We don't miss them. It goes in there. We do a great job.
Yep.
The biggest challenge is our extinguishments work really well, as you were talking about. Low pressure, all of a sudden, oh, I was doing something, I turned the water off.
Oh,
So now we detect, but the extinguishment isn't working. So we just want to make sure that it's always working. So we have an extinguishment that does a couple different things. One, it'll tell you if your water's on or off. Obviously, you can do that with a flow switch,
Right.
which is easy to do. But it will also make sure that you don't have leaky nozzles
okay.
or a nozzle that doesn't have good flow, like a good cone shape.
Okay.
Because obviously, if you have a nozzle and it's only flowing out of half of it,
Yeah.
that's going to be a problem.
Right.
So now we have a unit here with the intelligence that's up here that sees how that flow is coming out.
Okay.
So it can tell somebody on our console, and it will say, "Hey, your cone isn't quite right. You should probably change that nozzle."
Oh, okay.
Or it'll say, "Your nozzle isn't quite closing, so there's a little bit of water leaking.
Gotcha.
You might want to see if it's broken."
Yeah.
Or if maybe some material got stuck and you need to clean that nozzle.
Gotcha.
So it does some intelligent things. And as I mentioned before, when we were talking about heat, it also has a heat chamber in here that will sense the temperature. And
Yeah.
if it's getting colder, it will activate that heat chamber
to keep it from
freezing.
clogging up. Yeah.
Yeah. So, and again, it'll give that message to the operator back at our console.
Yeah.
So it'll tell you if it's leaking, if your cone isn't right, you need maintenance. And obviously, when you have all those information, you should be able to quickly adjust it. And that way, when we detect, your extinguishment's going to work perfectly.
That sounds great, because if you don't have this on there, then you probably have to do manual annual PMs and get up there, and boy, that's sometimes tough to check in a piece of duct.
We like to have everybody do an annual one anyways, just
Yeah.
to make sure everything's working the way it should. But when you have a system that has a lot of dirt,
Yeah.
not all these places have the good housekeeping seal of approval as
Yeah.
far as cleaning. So there's sometimes when they can't get to places like monthly
Right.
to do the cleanings and do this. This type of device is a huge maintenance operational savings. And the other thing nice about it is it'll give them that warning before there's an issue.
Yeah.
You know, you don't want to find out you have an issue when you have a ton of sparks.
Yeah.
That could cause a fire. You
Or
want
when
to
the
find out
sparks-
before.
when the smoke's coming out of the baghouse.
Yeah,
that's the bad time to find out.
That's definitely a bad side. So,
Yeah.
you know, so that's nice. And the other thing is you were saying about, and I didn't mention it, and sometimes I forget about it with this device, is most of the time with most nozzles, you got to get your wrench and you got to undo it.
Yeah.
And when you're up high
Oh.
or in an awkward spot, it's hard to do.
Yeah.
This has got just the simple quick release.
Oh, that is slick.
So you just need to
Yeah,
unscrew it
you
here
just unscrew it, unclamp it,
and you pop it off.
Oh, yeah.
You know, even guys like me can do it. So.
Yeah, when you make it easy for people to do, they're way more likely to do maintenance on things when it's easy to do it.
Absolutely.
Or not ignore an issue whenever the nozzle is not performing correctly. If you make it easy for them to fix it. And that's it. That's what, right? That's what you want. That's what we want. We want people to be able to go home, savor their families, and have a not be worried about coming to work. And doing things like this is definitely preventing a lot of hazards or potential things down the line.
Absolutely. I mean, that's what I tell our team every day.
Yeah.
Is we get the opportunity and the privilege and the responsibility to make sure everybody goes home every day.
Yeah.
You know, and seeing their families. And it's a big responsibility.
Right.
But we have equipment that we know that'll deliver that.
Yep.
And as long as we go in and make sure, you know, it's lined out appropriately, we do the occasional maintenance on it to make sure everything's operating well,
Yeah.
we get to live, you know, behind that promise.
And the other thing is, whenever a bag house goes down, sometimes that puts down production, and people are losing money. They're off their job
Yeah.
for a while. They're not able to, you know, and
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah.
I mean, I think that's one of the best parts about a spark system is, again, we're getting the spark out before it combusts.
right.
And by doing that, it all happens in line. There is no stoppage. Everything just happens just like it normally would. Everyone can keep working.
Right.
They acknowledge the spark just to know that it's happening there, as we talked about, in case there's issues. But you're not worried about,
Right.
you know, we're going to be down, we're going to be doing this. You just keep on running.
Just keep going. Yeah. Well, that's exciting. That's really great stuff. So right now, if what if I already have a spark and detect system on it? Can I retrofit to this, or is this a whole new?
No, it's very simple to do.
Okay.
You just need to replace you put this on, replacement for an old extinguishment.
Yeah.
Can happen, you know, just with basically this piece and one tiny little extension.
Oh.
Because this one's a little bit smaller.
Yeah.
Which is a good thing because nobody wants, you know, huge pieces
Yeah.
of equipment. But the other thing is, you know, if you have one existing, all you've got to have is a little small extension that'll make it fit, and it's a quick change, easy change, and you can put it in the exact same position.
That's great. So if everything's already plumbed, everything's already done, you can just,
Absolutely.
man. Well, that makes it even easier.
Yeah,
That's
it
even
makes
better.
It makes it easy, and it's a good part of an upgrade. And when folks are looking about, and depending on the corrosive nature of the environment that they're in, you need to update your extinguishment
That's true.
periodically anyways. And, you know, in particular, I'm just saying, if it was a fertilizer facility, this isn't all stainless steel, but we have stainless steel options for this as well for applications that
Oh, yeah.
might be a little more corrosive.
And that's what's great, is that you guys have already thought through all this. Somebody doesn't have to
Absolutely.
figure this out. They can just
No.
come to you guys, and you're going to help them with the right solution.
Absolutely. I mean, we started in the wood industry, so we've been, as a company, we've been around for 115 years.
Yeah.
We've been doing sparks for 50.
Yeah.
And the reason we got into sparks was we were in the woodworking business,
Oh, there's sparks there.
and like a good German company, we were creating our own sparks, and we got to put these out. We got to figure it out. So we figured out how to do that, and then, you know, kind of the rest is history. We don't do the woodworking anymore, and now we do the spark business, and we've been able to apply it to a lot of different industries. So we started in woodworking.
Yeah.
We're in the grain, flour, sugar, tobacco.
Yep.
You get into recycling because if wires or bales get in there,
Yeah.
you know, chemicals, power plants, you know, tissue, you name it, non-wovens, diapers,
Yep.
wipes, you name it.
Yeah.
Anything that could potentially combust, we're probably involved with.
We always say if it's a light and it's a fluffy dust, that's where you want to start going to active detect and extinguish.
Absolutely. And obviously anybody, you know, who's on your side of things that are looking for any dust collection and they're doing any of that work,
Yep.
having a system like ours tied into that just makes a ton of sense.
So what's anybody out there who's listening and they're hearing this and they're thinking, man, I need to do something like this. What is the best way to get a hold of you guys?
I mean, always the simplest is, for most people today is hitting the website.
Yeah.
And I have to say the word for you, Fagus.
There you go.
-GreCon.com.
If you just type in, if you Google GreCon, it'll probably still get you close to it.
The other option is, they can always call our phone number, which is 704-912-0000.
Oh, there you go.
So that's easy too.
And we'll put, I think we can put some links.
Oh yeah, we can put all that stuff in there, which is great. We really appreciate it, and we've been doing business, I know, for a lot of years.
Yep.
And
yeah, you guys have helped us out with a lot of trickier dusts that are challenges, and you guys help us figure out how to handle those properly, and it gives our customers a lot of confidence and comfortability because you guys have this history and you have this knowledge base, and it's not just throwing a product at them, but you guys come in and help with a solution to what we have going on.
Yeah, absolutely. So, and we buy a few things from you guys with the abort gates and things like that.
Yep.
So
Yep.
that's always a good thing, and it allows for a good partnership. And as you said before, the goal is make sure everybody goes home safely every day.
Yeah, that's it. Well, hey, thanks so much for coming on, giving
Absolutely.
us some time. It's an exciting product. So if anybody's out there having these issues, feel free to reach out. Reach out to us. We'll get you in touch with those guys. Well, until next time, stay healthy and stay safe, and we'll talk to you later.
All right, excellent. Thanks so much.
Thanks.
Appreciate it.
Yep.
Thanks for listening to the Dusty Jobs podcast. Breathe better, work safer.